welcome to another episode of New World Comics Podcast. I'm Buck Berlin, owner-operator of this fine establishment. Running this shindig this week is Brad Reed, typically the voice of God around here, but he's embodied this week.
I'll still bless you, though.
All right. Hey!
Yeah.
You can find Brad on the Nerdz II Men podcast. Weekly, more or less.
Yeah, weekly. Yeah, usually there might be like a week or
but he's on there and so graciously has me on there each week.
Yeah,
to spout my knowledge or whatever I feel like making fun of that week.
It's always great to have you on because you have an encyclopedic knowledge of all this stuff.
For the most part, or just the deep hatred of that Gotham show.
That too.
Yeah. Joined with us this week is Brook Bullock.
Hey, gang, how are you?
Hey.
I'm so excited to be here. Like, I kind of thought maybe it was like a practical joke thing when Buck was like, "Hey, do you want to be in?" I'm like, "Me?"
No, I have this list of people that I wanted to get to on this thing, and you were always on it, and so this before you is the most planned out I've ever seen anyone for this thing.
Oh wow!
Because usually I have my little cheat sheet that I'm writing on has like 5 questions, 5 things.
Right.
But man, you're ready. Well, I'm impressed.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna try to get to as much of all this as we can.
That's nerves, and of course what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of, why don't you tell everyone what you do for a living?
So I'm a teacher, Oklahoma teacher. I'm been here for 25 years teaching in Oklahoma. Not smart enough to leave, evidently.
So
and
that
go
makes
somewhere
you
else.
80.
That's exactly right.
All right.
Or 27, one of the two.
Yeah.
No, so child of the 70s, born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, that type of thing. So yes, this before you is knowing that, my God, we need to have a lesson plan. Like we should figure out what we're doing.
Well, how's this? Why don't we start off with what got you into comics?
One of my earliest memories, I really don't know per se, but one of my earliest memories are the things that they tell about me is that we were at my stepmom's, or I was with my stepmom, and I and my little brother, we came running in there, and I was probably like 4 and he was probably 2, something like that, somewhere right in there. And I say to her, "We need a cape on. We need a cape on." And she is like trying to figure out what little kid lingo we were talking about. And of course, we were saying we need a cape on.
On, yeah.
Right. Which of course is, you grab the blanket and a safety pin and you put it around your neck and bum-ba-da-dum, there you go. You're off. So it was something that I connected with from the time I was little. I don't know if it was from... it would have been before Super Friends on television. It would have been before, maybe I was watching Adam West.
Well,
I don't know.
Or, Bugs Bunny would sometimes throw on the old Superman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember before I knew really what superheroes were that, of course, Superman wears a thing and Bugs Bunny has that same thing. So if you're wearing that, then you've got superpowers.
Indeed. Underoos.
Yeah.
Do you know underoos?
I was just on the tail end of
underoos were the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
They were these pajama sets that for boys were basically tighty-whities, only they were colored in the appropriate color. And then they had a sleeping shirt or a T-shirt that was fairly tight-fitting. This was way before Under Armour and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was fairly, tight-fitting, and they would have the Batman emblem or the Superman emblem on them, and they were the greatest things ever.
Yeah, because, it was essentially, here's the costume without legs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't ever remember wearing them to bed, but I wore them all the time.
Yeah.
Around the house.
And then towards the end, they expanded and did here's the full pajama set. Here's your Superman, or your Superboy and your Supergirl and things like that.
And you had the whole set. So, those were those were great.
The shirts had detachable capes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Later on, they did.
Yeah.
About the time when they didn't have my size anymore.
It'll still fit.
Still make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. So you love, had the inherent love of superheroes, but
yes.
Do you remember any part of when you started just seriously collecting comics?
So that was, I grew up in a little tiny town.
Okay.
So, and in a small town here in Oklahoma, and the only place in our little town to get comic books was the grocery store that had the little spinning, rack of like eight comics or whatever. And I can remember, uphill both ways in the snow when comics were 25 cents.
Yeah.
I could take my dollar allowance and pick up like 4 comics, and that's what I would do. And then I'd take them back and, read them at the house and all of those things. So from the time that I kind of had spendable money or that, mom would buy them for me, then I would pick them up.
Interesting.
And it was just kind of however comic distribution happened in 1976. I don't know. But
yeah, because the newsstand version of everything wasn't necessarily how the direct market is, because things would get put out on the coasts first, and then whatever didn't sell got moved in and moved in and moved in and moved in, and then everything would become centrally located, and then whatever's left over after that would either go get pulped or go sold off as bulk.
That makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, and sometimes you'll see the comics with the titles torn off, and that was the drugstore owners tearing that off and sending it in for credit, and then throwing out the other books, and then the kids getting in the dumpster and pulling those out just to read. I
knew that from novels. If I had known that about comics, I may have become a delinquent much earlier. I'd be dumpster diving and be like, "Oh, look," So.
Oh yeah, but there's just tons of them out there.
Oh,
so.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
yeah. But anyway, that was it, and it was just that time of imaginative play, like we didn't have all these things on TV that you could do, So you had to make your own fun. And again, not only did I live in a little tiny town, but I lived 6 miles outside of town on a farm,
wow.
and so I probably thought my younger brother was the greatest thing in the world as soon as he could play.
So grew up on a farm. So any Superman parallels or anything?
I think that's. Okay, so not to make it all like, psychological or whatever, but that may be one of the reasons why, as Buckwell knows, I'm such a huge fan of Superman, is I may have connected to that a little bit early in life because in the 1970s, divorce was not like a thing.
It was not common at all.
It was not common at all. And my parents happened to get divorced when I was pretty young, like somewhere in the neighborhood about 4 years old, and my brother had was only like 2. And so again, in my small town, I didn't know of another kid who had divorced parents until I was like in 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, it was almost like a secret. It's like, oh, you too?
Yeah.
Right? This is so weird. I actually told friends sometimes, I have to go visit my grandma that weekend, when I was really going to go visit my dad. And it was just, weird. Today it's almost the opposite.
Right.
Where if your parents are still together, people are like, your parent? Like the
really?
same ones?
Why?
Like the mom and dad is your mom and dad? So anyway, but the Superman connection was, here was a guy who had, for all effective purposes, 2 sets of parents, 2 loving parents as far as, at least the Kryptonian ones we knew anyway, but definitely Ma and Pa Kent. And I could connect with that. And then I would, my dad lived in Wichita until I was about 10 years old, and then he moved to Kansas City.
I hear everything there is up to date.
Yeah. It's funny. That's another story. It's funny you should mention the comic books coming in, like that. I'll talk about that in a minute, about fashion or something. But so I literally would go Bright Lights Big City in Kansas City.
Yeah.
In my, when I was 12, 13, 14, all the way to about 16 years old. I would go, and because Kansas City was 5.5 hours away, you didn't do that every other weekend. I would go there for like 6 weeks in the summer, and it would be Bright Lights, Big City, Kansas City, Royals games, trends and fashion and stuff. And then I'd come back to Podunk, and which I loved. I loved living there too. I loved the little tiny town and being out on the farm and climbing and the things we did in the barn, and oh my God, it's amazing that I'm still alive. But it was such a contrast. I could totally identify with this dual identity: one person, one place; another person, another place.
Yeah.
I totally got it.
Interesting. So I mean, going there, you would think of it as like such a futuristic thing of,
my friends back in Tonkawa, America is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, my friends back in Tonkawa didn't believe me when I told them I'd been watching MTV all summer. Right? They were like, no. There's 4, 5, 9, 13, and that new channel 25 just came on. They have Godzilla movies on Saturday afternoon. And I loved that. I loved that time in Tonkawa, America too. But they didn't believe me that I'd been watching MTV all week or all summer in Kansas City.
And back then, man, MTV was such a big deal.
It was such a big deal.
Yeah.
It was such a big deal. But the comics coming in from the coast, type of thing that you mentioned, we would there were fashion trends up there in Kansas City that hadn't made it to Tonkawa, America yet. And so I came back, it was the 80s. And I came back like rolling up my pant legs, and folding them over and rolling them up real tight, right? And this taught me a lesson because I came back and, my friends and other people, the popular kids and stuff that were there were like, it's so stupid. What are you doing that for? And I'm like, no, it's a thing. Like, that's why it's cool. And they were like, that's so stupid. And I gave into it and didn't wear them, stopped doing it. And then like 2 months later, everybody's rolling their pant legs and they're, and I'm like, never again. So, I mean, that was a moment in which I just kind of learned, just be confident in, in what you like and what, and I think in a way that helped me hang on to some geekiness for the rest of my life because I was like, I don't care. I like it.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I've always been with my stuff. I mean, it's not all right, here's my geeky stuff all the time because you don't want to be that guy,
Please don't be that guy.
Well, yeah, because, there's a time and a place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There is a time and a place to talk about the Avengers, and then there's a time to, do math or clean the house. I don't know.
Or, talk sports, talk music,
yes.
talk, I was raised, know everything there is to know about a thing, a musician or band, and a sport.
Young ladies and gentlemen, you should be taking notes right now. This is really good stuff.
Because if you know those, then you can have a conversation with just about anyone.
Yeah.
Because there's the universal you can talk about the weather, but that only goes so far. But talking about a sport, unfortunately, everything's so varied now. Like I chose boxing, and now it's that's on its way out.
You've got to segue to MMA. That's the new hot thing.
See, but with boxing, it's very straightforward. Whereas with MMA, it's just so all over the place that it's kind of whatever fighting style is in vogue.
Yes.
is what's going to win. But there's always going to be another thing that can usurp the other style.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
as opposed to here's the set of known quantities. Choose one to be better at amongst this set.
Yeah.
It's kind of pared everything down.
Yeah.
Whereas so that guy can punch real hard, but that guy kicks way harder. So,
I try to tell people about when I nerd out on wrestling stuff, and not all my friends appreciate wrestling, so that's when I feel like the biggest nerd because they're like, I don't care.
Are we talking collegiate or WWE?
No, WWE.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, but I mean that's another thing. I would almost say that wrestling isn't necessarily sports talk. That's almost the same as comic talk.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have to be following it to really care.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, to say that it's not athletic is.
It's not. I mean, it's athletic, but it's not a sport.
Right. It's
it's a show. It's a TV show.
It's physically taxing for the people involved, but it's not necessarily a sport per se because it's written.
It may or may not be predetermined winners.
Some of it is and some of it isn't.
Yeah.
Some of it's all right, guys, this guy's going to win this week. Or if it doesn't really matter, it's go out there, have fun. Whoever quits first loses. So yeah. I mean that's pretty much it, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, I mean pretty much. Yeah.
So
what I like is when those two worlds collide and people start talking about, oh, did you see X edition of Batman because he was totally doing an omoplata, which was from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, and the MMA and the comic people start talking together. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. No, and you're seeing a lot more of that now, just because people are realizing that being really into one thing is kind of nerdy, like it's its own set of being nerdy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're seeing bleed over of the, oh, you're really into that thing? Well, I'm really into this thing. So then, when you're talking about how much you are into a thing, then people will start trying to find places that it'll bleed over into.
Yes. Simon Pegg has a quote I love. The guy, Scotty, new Star Trek or whatever, right? And other things. But he says that basically being a geek about something means never having to play it cool for how much you like it. It's something like that is his quote. And that applies to anything, whether it's comics or WWE wrestling or whatever.
Well, I don't know. Again, this goes back to you need to play it cool on a lot of stuff. Listen, I love the Fantastic Four almost as much as I love my wife, and you don't see much Fantastic Four going on here. There's a time and a place.
Yes, yes. But when you're in the right crowd.
Oh, of course.
When you're in the right crowd, man, just go for it.
I'll sell everyone on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard the good word?
Fantastic Four. I think they might be coming.
Yeah.
Check out Nerdz II Men podcast.
Perfect. Yeah, we should. Yeah. I think we just got the new commercial. Yeah. Soundbite.
But there was that time in the 80s where, we were just imaginative play everything. It was, I went from comics and still kept those in as a nice flow to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And we paved the way for kids today to be as geeky as they want.
Yeah, because back then it was still satanic.
Oh yeah, there was that fear. It was my first couple of D&D books. I'm serious. I'm pretty sure my mom got out of the Sears catalog. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which is so crazy. Yeah. Here's this satanic thing from Sears.
And then I realized that, like a succubi, a succubus, a succubus. I can't speak right now. I'm time for more water. But anyway, like there was a drawing of that I hadn't really seen before in the back with the monsters. I'm like, oh, I think I'll just mark that page for later. I mean, it was.
So that's what one of those is.
That's what those look like. So anyway, but
you were talking about the old and the new, like the Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons.
There we go.
Yeah,
yeah, and the Stranger Things, which is of course a throwback.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's just all that stuff is just, it shows up on Big Bang Theory,
right?
One
and now there are actors and actresses that are huge into it, like the girl that's Karen Page on Daredevil.
Yes,
apparently
Deborah Ann Wolf.
Or
Wall, something like that. I think
Wall. Yeah, she apparently will play with anyone and everyone on set. Like she'll do that. Hey, who wants to go play? So so like of the Daredevil set, there's a small group that's like, yeah, I'm in, totally, let's go.
That's really cool.
Vin Diesel apparently is one of the biggest players, and the guy that's married to Sofia Vergara,
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, Flash Thompson, and now Deathstroke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Well, because at the end of was it Batman Superman or Justice League, whatever?
Yeah.
Fake Lex Luthor was like, "Hey, come on up here," and he takes off his helmet.
That's awesome.
So because I think that he has his own like online D&D show or something like that.
He might.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So that's really cool.
I wonder if they ever played on the set of True Blood. I bet they did.
They'd almost have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Because both of them were on that show.
That's probably how she got started.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah,
could be. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But sorry, I took you out of your.
No, that's awesome. We were just doing that. Now we weren't total geeks either, because like on the farm, my brother and I, we would tie like a rope to the rafters of the barn. Yeah. And then we would climb up it, and we'd, then take them over to the side where the square hay bales are, that now they use for like Halloween decorations or whatever. They'd be stacked up to the ceiling 20 feet high, and we'd swing that dude across the, and I mean, from quote quote building to building, we were doing that. One of like the dumbest but you didn't know you were dumb until it was almost too late things.
Yeah.
That we used to do was we had there were 2 bins, grain bins, the round ones with the angled triangle kind of roof or whatever, and they were round, and they weren't real big ones. They were only about 25 feet tall or so, but we would climb up onto the top of one of them, and then we would run down the angle, and at the last moment before you would run out of roof, we would jump to the next one. Like Batman and Robin from rooftop to rooftop. And this is also the reason why my mother won't let me tell stories around the Thanksgiving dinner anymore. It's true. We were telling stories like this one time and just cracking up. And she was like, "No, just stop." She's like, "I thought I was a good mother. I thought you guys were out there enjoying nature, and you about died every day." But so we did that one time. We jumped, and I was probably wearing cowboy boots, and then on the thin metal of the roof, my feet just started sliding. And sliding and sliding and sliding. I'm like, "Oh, this is bad!" And I couldn't get a grip.
Yeah.
And there are these bolts, these rivets that hold part of the roof down.
Right.
And literally, like the last one at the edge of the roof, my boot caught on it, and I was like, "Huh!" And then I suddenly had this insight in my 10-year-old brain or 11-year-old brain that this is really dangerous. Like, we could fall off. Like, maybe we shouldn't do this a whole lot anymore. So no satanic influences from D&D, but about died by reading Batman comics.
Yeah.
The
spirit of adventure was.
Hopefully, I had a cape on. It probably saved me.
Yeah.
And children, stay off the silos.
Stay off the silos. No anymore. Yeah, the kids these days, they don't know what it means to about die in a farming accident.
That's hilarious. So, I want to get into your career of teaching.
Okay.
So, what made you decide, I want to be a teacher?
This is something we didn't talk about before in pre-production.
Yeah.
And really it was because I lost my full ride scholarship to Oklahoma City University.
Really?
Yes, which you might know is a Methodist school. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, they didn't want the guy who had gotten his girlfriend pregnant to come to their university on their scholarship. So without that scholarship, I couldn't go to that particular school.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed the course of where I went, and teaching is kind of where I found myself drawn to, just because of my love for literature and those type of things.
Yeah.
And it worked out okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I will say the first year that I was teaching, it was about October, and I probably wasn't. In fact, I know that I wasn't a very good teacher yet. Some of my students now are going, "Yet?" But it was like last hour of the day, and it was like 34, 35 kids in a class, which at that time was a huge class. It'd be the equivalent of like 43 kids today or something like that. But at the time, it was a huge class. Last hour of the day, 34 kids, 2 girls in the class, all boys.
Oh.
Last hour of the day. None of them are in sports. None of them are in band.
Yeah.
They were all just heathen pigs. And if any of you happen to be listening, you were. So. But it was about October of that year, school year, and I'm thinking, God, like, this is what I went to college for. Like, I hate this. Like, this is terrible. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have a fallback plan. Like, I don't know. And luckily, you have that farm boy upbringing of like, suck it up, buttercup, make it work,
Yeah.
And I just figured out a way to survive the first year. And now it's great. I mean, I wrote that down earlier, like 25 years. I was like, no, that's not right. And I was like, oh, golly jeepers, Batman.
Yeah.
We have been doing this for a long time.
Well, I mean, so of the tricks that you've learned to make it enjoyable, would you say that it's more of a way that you present yourself, or is it a way that you present the material that brings the kids into a thing, or do you just try to find the more interesting things to highlight? Like, what all do you do when you're going about?
Those are the three things. Those are the three things for sure. You have to find like what your teaching style is. I taught my first couple of years next to two people who were like grammar Nazis and hallway Nazis and, are you breathing without permission, young man?
Beloved by everyone.
Beloved by everyone. And that was not my style. And so I tried to emulate that at first, and I just couldn't, don't smile until Christmas. It's bad. I couldn't do it. And that, created inconsistencies then in the way that I did things. And then kiddos were like, loopholes, woof, and then it was chaos and craziness, So just be honest to yourself. And I just I tell the kiddos, I say, listen, here's the deal. You're at this age at the high school level, you know what the rules are, right?
Yeah.
And so if I'm having fun, you're going to have fun. I promise. At least it'll be English teacher fun, but it'll be fun, So all you got to do is not be stupid. And we're going to get along great. And most of them are really good at doing that. And then I just, bring out the geek of talking about different stuff, so.
Interesting. So if
for those on audio only, Buck has this like really, I'm not sure if he's conniving and hatching a plan
sort of.
Or if,
it sounds like it's good most of the time. What's a bad day look like for you then? Like, are you just like threatening or is it just like when you're upset, does everyone just oh no, he's upset. He's never upset. Let's like
that happens. Like there have been times when I've said, guard your little ears. There's been times in class when I've said, just shut up. And because they're like, you would have thought that I have dropped the most horrific profanity ever, but the kids are like, oh my God, he told us to shut up. Like, whoa. He's not in a good mood.
Yeah. Well, I asked that because I had a history teacher, my ninth grade, Barney Moon, who, he spent some time in Japan, was into tennis and did all this stuff. And the first day of class, he said, when he was in Japan, every day the students would stand up and say, Ohio gozaimasu sensei.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. So I got everyone in the class on board with it, and we did that every day. And and we gave due respect to him because like he was very passionate about it. He would tell us kind of the like, all right, so they don't want me to tell you this little aspect of history, but this is what really happened. Also, he explained Muhammad to us at the time, before like any of that had really happened, So to us that was just such a foreign concept. It was really tell us more about that. But whenever he was having a bad day, like we felt that it as a class of like outside of his class, there were a lot of the teachers that no one really cared. But like we wanted to make sure that he had the best day that he possibly could.
That's
so because
awesome.
we respected him so much because we could tell that teaching meant that much to him. So like
maybe that's it for them. Yeah. That's cool.
But I didn't know if it was the same for you of the oh man. Mr. Bullock's in a bad mood. Watch out.
Not necessarily. Like they read you very well though. They'll be like, are you okay today? Like you're scowling kind of a lot. And it may be that the dog got out before I left the house,
right.
or whatever, or maybe I'm thinking about, I got this podcast coming up. I got to talk about stuff. Really thinking. No, I'm just thinking hard about things. But there's it's kind of like people in general. There's like the 2% rule,
Yeah.
98% of the people are awesome, and then there's some people that are just jerks.
Yeah. Oh, that does bring me to the thing that I always ask every teacher that I encounter. Do you think some people are unteachable?
No, not at all. I think you just have to find out. Usually it's a matter of interest. You just have to find out a way to gauge their interest and for them to think, why do I need to know this stuff? So
right. Fair enough. The only times I've had a hard no was from not Than that was on our show, but
It was Martindale, wasn't it?
No, one of my friend's wives is a music teacher, and when she's teaching kids, like vocals, she's like, some of those kids absolutely unteachable.
They just have no rhythm. Their vocal cords don't work right,
and they're not willing to practice. They're not willing to listen to what you're saying to listen for, that kind of stuff. And she says it's just an absolute nightmare because I know what they need to know, and I've tried every different way that I've talked to other teachers on how to try to convey this concept, and the kids just won't.
Well, see, I was an instructor at the broadcasting school that I went to for a few years.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of agree with her, but then again, that's still on the student because they're not doing what they need to do to learn.
Right.
They could learn it, they just won't.
Yeah, but then that falls into, that's that kind of kid.
Yeah.
Is it unteachable?
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it's maybe they're not unteachable, but they're not able to move along with the same pace that
yeah.
So
you just find a different way to present things to them or do something, which brings me around to one of my why New World is one of the best, maybe the best comic book store in all of Oklahoma City.
It's very nice of you to say.
It's true. So there, a colleague of mine had a Beowulf comic book.
Oh yeah,
like from the 1970s or something like that. I don't know. And I was like, oh, that I know just the kid. Beowulf, old epic English poem. Care.
Yeah.
But it's a great. It could be a great story.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in here to New World, and I said, hey, do you have any idea about? I think it's DC. This Beowulf comic book, and instantly Buck is like,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's like, go check. It's right over there, I think. And sure enough, I think you had like six issues of it or something like that. The other story, which is really closely related, and if we put pictures or something of these covers up
we
later,
put them right here.
Anyway, they totally are like from the 1970s with like maybe the reason why the comic book code was invented or something like that. But anyway, one of my good friends, Curtis, his birthday was coming up, and we were just talking in general and about stuff, and then he mentioned that he got some Slayer. I think it was Slayer.
Yeah.
Slayer comic books when he was a kid, and he loved it was just a 4-episode run or so,
Which
4-issue
is different
run.
than the band Slayer.
Yes, different than the band Slayer.
Not to say that the band Slayer doesn't have comics, but
yeah, that could be a good comic book team.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, that's awesome. Yes, so Slayer, it's about it's kind of a Spawn-esque type of thing where a guy gets his powers from hell, I think, and has to do the devil's work to keep his soul or something.
Yes,
but he really liked it, so I thought, his birthday. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go hunt this down, and of course, the place I'm gonna check first is New World Comics. Instantly, right there, boom, But you didn't even have to think about it. You were just like, I know, right? Yeah, we've got some. I think they're right over there.
Yeah.
And this place is like huge as far as comic books. I don't even know how you knew that. So it's crazy.
I have a really weird memory when it comes to something.
Well, you remembered kind of who I was and my voice on the phone. Now, it was probably just caller ID, but I don't know. But I could tell when I would call and say, hey, blah, blah. You knew who you were talking to on the other end of the line. You knew it was me, which is crazy.
It's one of the things that got instilled pretty early on when I got a job here of realizing that, if you make your customers your friends, then you'll never really truly work because you're having a good time with them and everyone's taking care of each other.
That's
kind of
cool.
Thing. So when you get to know your customers and get to know their interests, you can find the really best stuff for them, and then everyone's going to have a good time. Because if my buddy liked Batman and all he read was just the really weird offshoot stuff from the 90s, then he's going to just read the worst Batman stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's Superman stuff from like the 70s or when he was like clapping his hands and putting out stars or whatever it was.
Yeah, shooting out the 6-inch version of himself out of his hands. Getting a line. All that stuff. Yeah, that got really weird.
But to what you were saying, I remember one day I was standing there and I was thinking, or no, I was saying it out loud. I wonder if I have this comic book yet. And Buck's like, yeah, you bought that like 2 years ago. I was like, wow, he knows my collection better than I do.
Awesome. Best comic book store in the city.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
And I mean, to be fair, there's a complete adverse of the, hey, you should get this. You sold this to me 3 times already. Like, oh, man. But no, I mean.
Good of you to admit it.
Have you shared the other 2 copies with your friends? Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take all those back. But I mean, there's just certain instances that will happen, and I'll remember that particular aspect of it, and then it's this happened and this happened and this happened. So I remember conversations pretty well. Typically, it's you said this and this and this. So it's just kind of a weird skill set.
Now, was this through radiation or radioactive spider bite, or I guess those were the same thing? Was it some type of exposure?
I think it's just the chemicals in the comics, but
he's got like comic imprint tattoos, like flex, and they,
But no, like of the staff of that era, Tom and Tad were definitely brought up with that skill set. Of know your customer, know what they want, know these things, and everything else will kind of take care of itself. So
teaching's kind of the same way. If you find a way to connect to the kid, then you have fun teaching. It's great.
Yeah,
because then you end up having conversations, and then they might be about Beowulf or whatever. But then
interesting.
That's cool. Man, there was a thought that came, and then it slipped right out of my head about something.
That happens a lot in podcasting, but when you
blah,
have
blah, blah, edit,
such a
blah, blah, blah.
you've got a great system going.
So, how's this when you're when you've been teaching for that long, or wait?
Go right ahead.
When you've been teaching for that long, I'm just starting to kind of see this now with some of the superhero school kids when they get old enough and become actual adults and people, they become real people.
Yes.
How weird is that?
That is awesome, and then also can create some very interesting conversations. Like sometimes we tend to lock people in at certain years.
Yeah.
Mr. B, your teacher probably thinks of you as the high school you.
Right, and I've run into him a time or two, and I had a conversation with him, and I realized that it was very weird for him to see me as a full adult doing the thing. So it was as I see him around, I'll say hi.
Yes.
I'll say hi back, and then we'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to necessarily take away from all of that. And, who am I amongst the hundreds of thousands of kids that he's come across? You don't want to just assume and be that guy.
It does always mostly brighten your day to run into folks and to see them and things like that. Also kind of a Superman connection thing sort of is that I'm really good at compartmentalizing my life.
Yeah.
And so I ride motorcycles and am involved in a couple of groups, one of which is very safety and freedom of the road oriented. It's ABATE of Oklahoma. But because of that, we sometimes go to events that sometimes it's just the RV boat show, but sometimes it's an event on private land or somewhere that is more adult, more
lax,
more lax in the rules of societal norms, and things, and and I've been back doing that for about 10 or 15 years now, and of the times when I've gone to those parties. And when people are having a really good time, and they're all adults, and they're having a really good time, Every single time I've been at the safety booth or something like that, and I hear this feminine voice kind of ring out with that particular lilt that you know they've been having a really good time.
Yep.
Or at least they think they have. And it's, Mr. Bullock, is that you? And I instantly know that when I turn around, I'm going to see a student. And I usually think two things to myself. Oh, God, please be over 21 now. Please be over 21 now. Please be over 21. And then the second thought is, please have clothes on. Please, please, please. Every single time that has happened, and every single time one of those things has been true, but not both.
Oh, see, that's when you turn around.
And they come running up to you because they're like, "Hey!" And you're just like, "Hi, hi, 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 hi."
That's when you turn around and say, "No, no, I'm not." Happens all the time.
Happens all the time. Look just like him. And you would think, because I do. I look, we'll maybe throw up pictures or something like post pictures or something like that. I don't know. But, you can look very different. This me right now looks very different than biker me. And it's not that there's a whole lot of changes.
It's
just
biker hair.
That's right. Or truly, maybe I have the bandana on and then it's all sticking up because I've been riding in the wind, or whatever. Or the goggles are just clothes make the man. So anyway, yeah, that happens.
Yeah. No. Over the summer, one of the kids that did superhero school for us is about to graduate college.
Sweet.
Oh, wow.
I think I know who this is.
Yeah. I mean, her.
You don't have to mention names. No.
Her name's Abby, and I was talking to her at the convention and said, "Kid, listen, it's so weird that you're about to graduate college because I still think of you as this 12-year-old. That it's weird that like you can drive and that you're like, no, I'm about to go do no.
Yeah.
I'll always think of you as these little kids that need all this help. So if ever I'm patronizing or whatever, just call me on it."
Yep.
Yeah, and then she told her dad, and her dad came in and says, "I thought it was the funniest thing, too." I do the same. Yeah.
They do. They get stuck at normal ages. I'm trying to figure out how I'm the same age my mom is, because my mom is, in my mind, stuck at about the age whenever I left the house. You know? So, anyway,
now,
young or old.
Interesting. Where else does that take us on your notes-o things?
Well, so like I did, had comics for a while and imaginative play for a while, and then about the time I started teaching, I thought I gotta grow up and I gotta be a grown up.
Yeah.
And so you kind of put those things away for a while, which was really a dumb idea. Come to think of it, it was really dumb. I should have kept embracing that and going with that, and then moved here to the city, and there's free comic book day that happens here.
Yes.
And that was one of the first times that I started being drawn back in to those things, and then would pick up a few issues here and there. But then whenever I really locked back in hard to reading every week was with DC's reboot in the New 52. Mm-hmm. And at first, we'll pretend that Buck doesn't hear me for a while. For a little while, I just went direct, like through DC, the little subscription thing. And then I thought, that's really stupid when I have someone just down the street who's brilliant. And so then I switched here. And then Buck was there, and so no, I'm just. But so then I obviously switched to getting things here, picking things up from here, which is great. I was, I've kind of become an Aquaman fan because of New 52.
Yeah, you around here are kind of like the number one Aqua fan.
Aqua fan.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, and I'm not even the biggest Aquaman fan that I know. I wouldn't even, I'm like just kind of like, oh, okay, thank you. But I have a really good friend who has been an Aquaman fan from his childhood. Like,
interesting.
He survived, he survived,
the Super Friends,
Friends, Aquaman riding on seahorses. He survived
the '90s hook hand.
'90s hook hand Aquaman. He survived Adult Swim. Aquaman.
Listen,
Justice League.
Aquaman's dance party. If you haven't seen it, get on your YouTube. It's the best time you'll ever waste. Watch. If you don't like the first one, watch the second.
Watch the second one. For
Aquaman's
sure.
dance party. It's
my friend Gary, he doesn't do it professionally, but he's a diver. Like he has gone down to the bottom of lakes and things below, really deep, and had to do like the mixture, and it's just because he was an Aquaman fan,
That's really cool.
But so I thought, why not? New 52, let's give everybody a chance,
Yeah.
And so I picked it up, and it is really good.
Man, just the first issue, the first 8 pages.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Like that, it explains why you should be an Aquaman fan.
Yes.
And why Aquaman's great.
Yes. Should we give a little spoiler? I love the moment with the bank robbery and the bullet and the cops.
Okay,
right?
so that's the very first thing. Like,
yes.
The robbery's going on, and then you see Aquaman jump from the ocean into the city. Like it's this perfectly lined up shot.
Yep.
Of you can see the ocean at the edge of the city, and like here he is jumping in. Yeah. So that shows, oh look, he can travel far distances. It's not like hold on, let me get a cab. Right?
Yep.
So then he gets shot at, and a bullet hits him, grazes off, and it leaves just the tiniest bit of blood.
Yes.
So it hurt him a little.
Yes.
But he's not really phased.
No.
So it's look how tough this guy is.
Yeah.
Right. So then they're speeding off, and he gets his trident, and he throws it, and it slams it, and then he flips them.
Yeah.
So it shows, man, look how good he is with the trident. Look how strong he is that he flipped a car with all the people in it.
Yeah. And I think the only dialogue at this point has been, it's Aquaman. Who cares? Run him down. I think it's
right.
the only dialogue has been the bad guys so far.
Yeah.
But you see all these things about Aquaman, and he's kind of a badass.
Yeah.
When I say badass, I just said badass.
Yeah.
All right, badass.
Yeah, no, we try to have like I guess you call it church swearing on here.
Okay, very good.
Ass hell damn. Like that it's
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. It's not like what Cameo said on
Cameo. I need to wash
Cheese
my
and
mouth out just for
crackers.
thinking
Oh my
about
God.
it.
cheese and crackers.
Yeah.
But no, so then
Chicken and biscuits. Oh my gosh.
yeah, so right after he apprehends the bad guys, hands them over to the cops, and the cops are just sitting there making fun of him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, thanks Aquaman, whatever. And then he's like, you know what, whatever. If you guys really need help, I'll help you next time, whatever.
You bet.
So then he goes off, and he ends up at a diner.
Yes.
Eating fish.
And the waitress is just like, wait, are you okay with this?
They're like, what are you doing? Don't you talk to them? He says, fish are idiots. I can control them. I don't really talk to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, what else are you supposed to eat down there? Count for so long. Yeah. So it was just this beautiful, like, oh, here's the world of Aquaman in 8 pages.
Yeah. And then that storyline in the first 12 issues, maybe 6 issues is that first circle of dialogue, but it is such a good storyline.
Right.
With the trench.
Yeah.
And then it segues into part of kind of what the Aquaman movie was with, the question of who is the rightful ruler of Atlantis. But it's such a strong first year. It's so good.
Yeah, and throughout the whole 52 series, there's some parts where it dips, and it kind of got a little too far into the others for my take. Like, the pre-Justice League team that he helped form. That was a little weird, and then when they came back, it was even more weird. But once they got that out of the way, it was, pardon the pun, but clear sailing.
Smooth waters.
I feel like he was holding that one. He had it set up in the queue. He was waiting for the opportunity.
May or may not have. Yeah,
I like it. So I like it.
And New 52 Aquaman is different than movie Aquaman in that. The Jason Momoa Aquaman, this is my take anyway, he's kind of played as like, I didn't pay enough attention in school, I'm kind of dumb.
Right. He's dude bro Aquaman.
Right, yeah. Versus the New 52 Aquaman has that badassery aspect, but really plays the nobility part of it. It's so good.
I would say the guy that they had playing Orm, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that he would have played a really good, like, straightforward Aquaman.
I agree with that.
And that, Jason Momoa was, typically kind of has like the bad guy look because he kind of has like the thicker brow, and wears a whole bunch of guy liner, and has Steven Tyler hair.
That's right.
I agree with that.
And does anybody in Oklahoma City not believe that he and Steven Adams are related? Because they have to be, right?
I mean, depending on who you ask, we're all related.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done. So.
But I mean, just as far as in a different world, he would have been your more regal looking Aquaman.
Yeah.
But I think that with what they did, it all kind of shook out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the movie, fun movie. I mean, fun movie. Probably B plus maybe.
See, I tell everyone it's a bad movie that's really fun. It's really nice about being bad.
It is, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh, it is, but there's some scenes that like bog it down and like.
Yeah.
Why are they chasing people on rooftops? Come on now.
Yep. I will say, Black Manta, fantastic. I love Black Manta's backstory in the movie.
Yeah.
And that backstory, again, they lifted all the good parts of the movie, they kind of lifted from the story arc of New 52.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that has to do with Jeff Johns being in charge of all the movie stuff now. So, yeah, he probably did that. Ooh, it's a really good idea. All of my stuff.
And he wouldn't be wrong necessarily.
To be fair, he's not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Black Manta's backstory and we see, I think, something that's nice in a hero too is that we see in the movie, and again, it's played in the comic as well. We see that moment when Aquaman made a bad decision.
Yeah.
He created Black Manta.
Yeah.
By not helping.
Right. When he easily could have.
When he easily could have.
Yeah.
And this still wouldn't have been a threat. And he chose not to. And and I think all great heroes have had that moment. Batman's had that moment.
Right.
Superman's had that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Wonder Woman's had that moment. That's another fantastic New 52 reboot is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, which it's really sad that they've had to kind of go back and change some of that just to work with the rest of continuity.
Yes.
But, honestly, you could kind of take her stuff and see the New 52 run as its own standalone story.
Yeah.
Outside of when she started dating Orion, when she was dating Superman, a few of the other things.
Yeah.
It's so well done, and it plays very well with the pantheon of gods.
That's exactly what I was going to mention.
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, no, please.
No, I was just going to say that story arc where she, where you really see it, the Greek elements, where they just kind of own it and say, that whole out of clay thing, that's not really what happened. The real reason is because you are, as many times people have said in the past, you're the female Hercules.
Yeah.
Zeus is your dad. Sorry, spoiler.
Well,
Anyway.
At this point, it's you're
4 years ago.
You're exploiting intrigue. Yeah,
and that whole story arc and the battle with Ares. And then Strife and Hera's even cool in there.
And when she became the god of the
that was awesome. Like, oh, you've taken care of this. Now you have to pick up the mantle and be. And then the way that it starts to affect her a little bit.
Yeah.
The coolest thing, this is true, the coolest thing, at some point, I don't know when, Wonder Woman was able to fly.
Yeah.
And the New 52 issue there explains how that happens.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Hermes and
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the most brilliant moment that made perfect geek sense to me. When she is going to save someone and leaps off, and then Hermes basically gives her the ability to fly by plucking one of his winged sandals and throwing it at her, and it hits her, and now she's like,
yeah.
I was so geekily happy at that moment. I was like, that's why she can fly now.
Yeah, as opposed to, no, she's got all these other powers that she just never knew she had, and she's got an invisible jet too. Yeah. Yeah.
But those are two titles that people should pick up. They should pick up Aquaman and they should pick up Wonder Woman if they're not already
right.
reading
Well,
them.
and the New 52 Batman was just flawless.
Some of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so weird to have those, whereas almost every other title was just diametrically opposed. It's just,
Yep.
yeah, some of them, they just got so bad. You know, because I know that, yeah, now that we're, so many years far from the beginning of the New 52, so much of it was last minute, like, hey, your title got canceled, but we kind of like your stuff. Do you want to write anything else? Do you want to do anything else?
Oh.
Or, I'm sorry, you've been let go because we have these guys who had this idea. Yeah, so it was the guys. If you have any ideas, we're going to do stuff now. Do it now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the flub up they were arcing pretty well, and then they tried to do that contingency thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a
Oh,
train.
the convergence.
Convergence. Can I say that's a train wreck?
Yep.
Oh, it was a train wreck.
Yeah.
Luckily, it didn't last very long because everyone realized it was a train wreck.
Yeah. There were a few good, just like all DC things, even with their horrific missteps, some really good things came out from it. Like we got Jonathan Kent.
Yes.
Which that run of Superman, the rebirth from issue 1 to 30, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Oh my God! Seeing Clark Kent be a father and have to explain to his son that no, Superman is an ideal that I have to portray. I'm Clark Kent. Superman is the guy that I strive to be.
Which is almost the opposite of the way that I have always seen the hero.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to disagree with that really badly, but it's so well written.
Right. That it's all right, well, this is the way that for all intents and purposes for this story, this is the way that we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, as opposed to in like All-Star Superman where, no, he, he doesn't think that he's right. It just turns out that he's right all the time.
Yeah.
And he's just that good of a person that playing Clark Kent is really him just kind of, playing a trick on everyone. It's him having fun.
Or you get the Lex Luthor version. I mean, this isn't exactly what Lex Luthor knows, but you get the Lex Luthor version, which basically implies that Clark Kent is how Superman sees the rest of us, as a bumbling, weakling idiot.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
a great. I have it in my geeky Superman file. I don't know that I could find it, but I have a great thing called Top 10 Reasons Why Lex Luthor's Right. And it talks about, why Superman is such a danger. And it makes wonderful sense. Like, you can see Lex Luthor is a guy who thinks he's doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's, again, with the villain, that's the most dangerous kind.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they think they're right.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, they know they're doing the wrong thing and choosing other, because that's an easy fix.
Yeah.
But the convincing someone that they're wrong, oh, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
kind of two villains you can have. You can have maniacal, crazy Joker.
Yeah,
and then you can have the guy who thinks he's the hero.
Yeah,
but he's not. But he thinks he is.
So in your mind, Superman is perfection.
But I think that perfection only comes because of the human teachings he was given as a kid.
Right.
I think that, and maybe this is like early 2000s Superman or whatever, or maybe earlier than that, but, I think you have Superman not with the Kent family, and you maybe have Zod, or you have the Jor-El from maybe Smallville that was much more ambitious, shall we say.
Right. I agree with that entirely. My full realization of Superman didn't really come until we did the superhero school of him, and I was playing with the old Jimmy Olsen trope of, like you go back and look at the old Jimmy Olsen comics. He's always doing something really dumb. Like,
Jimmy or Superman, because it both depends on how far back you go. But Jimmy, you're talking about.
Well, yeah. Sort of until you realize, it applies to all of Superman's world. Like, so we played the setup that Perry White tells Jimmy, his photographer, to go get him coffee.
Yes.
Because Perry White is just that awful of a boss, whatever.
He and J. Jonah Jameson went to the same
They really
school.
did. Yeah,
they really did.
Yeah,
they went to the
Perry's
same.
just a little nicer about
That's
it.
right.
But yeah,
they were not in broadcasting school, or they were not in editorial school.
So the whole idea of the bit is that he sends Jimmy out for coffee, and he keeps coming back having these wild adventures with Superman. And so he comes back as like Caveman Jimmy, as Turtle Boy, as like oh, he married an ape. Oh, he was a Viking for a little while. Oh, he did this. And I realized that Superman is there to make sure that everyone has the most interesting time that they possibly can without getting hurt.
Without dying, yes.
Superman is the safety net for all of us, and it's up to us to make the most of this very interesting world.
Yeah.
And it was
Yep.
okay, I am behind fun Superman. Because, so many people want like a more serious Superman, a more like down to earth, dark, whatever, and it's you can have it both ways.
Yep. Here's where the fan mail and the postings will happen. I was so thankful that Joss Whedon stepped in because Superman or Justice League. The best part of the whole thing was when Superman, basically gives kind of his famous "that tickles," only it was like, oh my God, that hurt. That's hilarious. Like, oh my God, I never felt that. Him laughing, Superman laughing, that's my Superman.
Yeah, for me, the movie became instantly better when he smiled.
Yes.
Like just that, oh, there he is.
Yes.
Yeah, look, Superman smiled. For the first time, someone in these damn movies smiled. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It wasn't Lex Luthor stealing someone's gum. For the love of God.
We won't rehash how dumb it is that Superman wouldn't just float off out of range and be like, "Hey, listen, we need to talk."
Yeah.
Anyway, but different. Luckily, that one is behind us. That
Right.
Superman is behind us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a better plan next time as opposed to, all right, well, now that we've made a Superman movie, we can get
Yeah.
Hopefully they have, hey, we have a great idea for a Superman movie. Let's make a Superman movie, as opposed to we are contractually obligated to put them on screen so we can maintain rights. Yeah,
That would be true. Would be true. So I know we're running close on time, and this is awesome to be here. It's really cool. But one of the last things I have on my notes that I really find fascinating is the thing called the Hawkeye Initiative.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So it's for and. Yeah, I'll mansplain since you already know. I'll hang my head in shame.
No,
and
no,
mansplain.
I don't know. So.
Okay. Well, it's basically what there was a group of artists or some people who were noticing how female superheroes are often portrayed on covers, where basically they somehow have like some super twisty spine where you can see both boobs and butt at the same time.
Yep.
And so what they did was they picked on Hawkeye and they started redrawing covers. Only with Hawkeye in the spot where that was.
In that exact same position.
Yeah.
In that exact same position.
Yeah.
And it looks ridiculous.
Oh, definitely.
There's a Marvel cover one they did where they reshot where they put where they put Thor and Captain America and Hulk and Hawkeye all in the pose that Black Widow is in.
Right.
And then they put her in the man pose. And it's just, once you see it, you're like, holy moly, like, whoa.
Yeah.
Now, is this Googleable?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So we can put up a picture and see it?
Oh, yeah.
You can find our favorite ones flashing throughout most of this right here.
I haven't been able to do that one yet.
Yeah.
So.
If you put your hands like this, then you won't cover up the thing.
Yeah.
But
That sounds
go ahead.
funny. though.
Yeah. So I was talking to I got to go to Comic-Con a couple times and
Sweet.
I was talking to one of the Marvel artists and just kind of did not that I don't appreciate how good looking everyone is.
Exactly.
But why is that? And he says, without certain characteristics always being seen, you need to have the feminine figure be as feminine as possible and the male as masculine as possible, just so you can differentiate at a glance whether someone's male or female, just because not every artist has the talent to convey who everyone is. Or, this is a masculine face or a feminine face, whatever. Because you see pictures and you can kind of tell right away. But if you were to just draw it and don't have that little subtle line, whatever it is that's telling you that, then the whole image is lost.
Yeah.
So that's why all the women have no waist and giant chest and hips, and the guys are shaped like Doritos, and that's the idea behind that.
Yeah.
But so I get trying to have that, but the Hawkeye Initiative points out that it's been taken way too far.
Yes.
So yeah.
And what I really like is that we're starting to see the characters not be in that twisty,
in the over-sexualized.
Yeah, in that over-sexualized. That's a good term for it. That over-sexualized position. And of course, the first thing I think of is Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
like they've changed her suit.
Right.
Yeah,
and she has pants finally.
Yep, she has pants finally. And then oftentimes when she's standing. This is going to sound sexist, but she's standing in a heroic pose.
Yeah.
She's standing
in a dominant pose.
A dominant pose, not necessarily a sexy pose.
Yeah. There's less,
which
you could
argue that that's still pretty darn sexy. But
I mean, she isn't any more masculine pose.
Yeah, maybe so.
As opposed to exuding femininity or whatever you want to apply to that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I think it's great that they're finally realizing their shortcomings on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing more characters like Lobo's daughter Crush.
Yes.
She burps, she farts, she does, she'll.
Well, she's Lobo's kid, so.
But it's kind of one of those like, we're laughing at this, but it's making it more okay for women to do that, because guess what? Women do that.
What, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it's kind of the look at us normalize all this. Look at here's a character who doesn't have to be pretty all the time, who doesn't have to adhere to those standards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And there's, and I'm totally okay with that. I love that. I love that idea of a hero. A female hero can still be feminine without being sexy,
right?
Without being the succubi in the back of the Dungeons and Dragons, right? So
that was such a perfect callback. I don't think that we're going to get any better than that. So I think that we're going to call the show on that. Brooke, I'm definitely going to have you back.
I would be
soon.
So excited to come back.
Man,
That's great.
You've been such a great guest. Brad, thanks for recording this thing. You all can listen to Brad Reed talk more on the Nerdz II Men podcast. Comes out more or less weekly.
Yeah.
Featuring Cameo and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find it on Spreaker, Stitcher, SoundCloud.
Yes.
iTunes, Apple Play.
Close.
I don't know. YouTube, Smoke Signals.
Spotify. I think
Spotify.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. We'll get smoke signals up and running.
Yeah, it's all Morse code.
Yeah,
it's a heck of a way to listen. But,
yeah, it's great.
Thank God for doing that, because I was going smoke signals. I don't know this one. I got to keep up with the kids. I'm like,
it's just me being a jackass.
It'll be the hottest, newest thing tomorrow. Watch.
Somebody, there's a Tech Valley person going, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Some kid's like, "Granddad, teach me Morse code." All right, that's enough of my jackassery. Thank you all for listening. I've been Buck Berlin at New World Comics. See ya.